All right. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Vidhan Bhaiya, and I'm a first-year MBA student at HBS. I'm honored to welcome you all to the art of building timeless Indian brands. Our panelists today represent companies that have become woven into the fabric of Indian life. We are privileged to have with us Mr. Abhijit Roy, Managing Director and CEO of Berger Paints. Founded in 1923, Berger has grown from its humble origins to become India's second largest paint manufacturing company with a market cap of over $7 billion. Joining him is Mr. Devanshu Gandhi, Managing Director of Vadilal Industries Limited. Since 1907, Vadilal has transformed from a single hand-cranked ice cream maker to one of India's largest ice cream manufacturing brands, now delighting customers in over 30 countries. We also welcome Ashutosh Goyal, Director of Ananta Hotels and Resorts, a brand which has redefined Indian hospitality by creating immersive experiences that showcase our cultural heritage while delivering world-class luxury. Guiding our discussion is Professor Vikram Gandhi, the Gerald P. Kaminsky Senior Lecturer of Business Administration at the Harvard Business School, whose extensive experience will help us understand how these iconic brands balance tradition with innovation. Please join me in welcoming our speakers to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vedant. Thank you, and welcome to this panel. I'm delighted, and it's my pleasure to be here. We can build on the Sabyasachi kind of panel in terms of building brands, trying to build, building global brands, building brands which, are timeless. And so this panel will really focus on that. In my as I analyze business and the teachings that we do here at the business school, this is a world where competition is only increasing. There's fierce competition. Consumer preferences are changing constantly, whether it be in India or globally. And I'd request you to all please settle down, because I think to be respectful of the speakers here, it'd be probably good if we could all settle down, please. In terms of, if you look at digitization, digitization is changing competitive dynamics dramatically. But having said all that, there are certain brands which are timeless. They kind of endure year after year, decade after decade. And so we'll try and understand what makes that happen. Why is that happen? What are the characteristics of that make that happen? And in my mind, building a brand is not just about, great product or strong marketing. It's something more than that. It's about emotional connection. It's about staying relevant and authentic as things change around you. And that, too, is something we will explore. And we have, the organizers here have put together a pretty diverse panel. We have two companies, Berger and Vadilal, that have been iconic and strong brands for over 100 years. And at the other extreme, I wouldn't say extreme, but a more recent brand is Ananta, which has been around since 2008. And so we will explore, so just given the Indian ecosystem and the business ecosystem, you have a whole variety of, the definition of timeless can mean a lot of different things. So here we have timeless for 100 years, timeless for 15 years, and building timelessness going forward. So let me start by maybe asking each one of you, in your experience, what is the defining characteristic of your brand? What makes it different? Is it innovation? Is it authenticity? Is it storytelling, consistency? This whole issue of balancing innovation with India's cultural heritage. So please, maybe we start with you, Abhijit, as to, what makes your brand timeless?
So you're right, I think four ingredients which are very important, I think. The first one, of course, is, understanding the culture of the society at large. And India is a diverse country, and different regions have different types of cultures, and you need to understand and appreciate that first. The second is, being adaptive, innovative. The third part is being authenticity. You have to deliver what you promise and be consistent in terms of quality, etc. And the fourth interesting storytelling, which is the most important part of any brand building. So if I take you through the journey of Berger, I think it will probably indicate how this has been done. Berger started its journey in India in 1923. It was a British company. It got sold in 1980 to Vitthal Malia, father of Vijay Malia. Vijay Malia, sold it to our current promoters, in 1991 to the Dhingra family, based out of Delhi. They took 3 decisions when they purchased this company. One, they will retain the headquarters in Kolkata. Number 2, it will be run professionally. And number 3, which is, very rare in those days, was the professional family taking its eyes off and allowing the professionals to run it. So the ownership got transferred. And they decided that we will focus much more on the decorative part of the business. So our journey began from there in the decorative paint business in India. And we gradually built up our presence. Initially, what we used to do is to just copy what was going on with Asian Paints. So you cut, copy, and paste, and sell it at a lower price, build up a distribution network, build up a presence, build revenue, build profit. In 2005, we changed tack. We created a logo for ourselves. We used to have a very sort of a German logo, Berger Paints, and it was bold. And so we made a logo which was much more decorative in nature, Louis Berger, much personalized, very colorful, and the tagline, paint your imagination. And then on, we started focusing much more on innovation and giving consumers something which they haven't got so far in terms of brands, which we started creating innovative products, innovative services. At that point of time, a lot of MNCs came into India. And so people said that, oh, now all these MNCs are there. They have deep pockets. They have all the technology of the world. They know how to build brands, and they have strong brands anyway. We already had 2 strong MNCs there, Akzo Nobel with the Dulux brands and Kansai Nerolac. And now we had Sherwin-Williams, Hempel, Jotun, all the world brands have entered in that 2010-15 period. We continued to, because we understood culture of India better, we innovated furiously, we kept on growing. And from the 5th position in India, we rose to the 2nd in India, 4th largest in Asia, and 14th largest in the world. And in the process, actually Sherwin-Williams, which is the US largest company, they tried for 7 years in India, suffered losses, and they sold their decorative business to us in India. And not only that, because of the innovations which we kept on carrying, after a period of time, we found actually the leader copying us and selling products and services at 10% discount. So the whole cycle was reversed from where we started. And today, we are a 100-year-old company. We are old in age, I think, but very young in terms of innovative spirit. So we combine trust with innovation and carry forward our good work. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Abhijit. But just before I get to the other speakers, so just real quick, they've just celebrated their 100th anniversary last year.
Thank you.
So you talked about Asian Paints since you mentioned Asian Paints. So what is the difference between your brand and their brand?
So, I think, as I said, we have been much more innovative, and I'll talk a little bit in detail about it. I think, other 2 panelists need to speak. But I will speak of what are the innovations that we have created which have differentiated us away from what they stand for in the marketplace. And that has been, critical to our growth story.
Okay, so it's about innovation and differentiation.
Yeah.
So with that, maybe I'll ask you, Devanshu, to talk a little bit about the Vadilal story.
बाहर बर्फ पड़ रही है और मैं वाडीलाल की बात कर रहा हूँ.
Best time to have ice cream.
So the world loves ice cream. But you might find this hard to believe that there was a time in India people avoided eating ice cream. Because they thought that there is an egg yolk and gelatin. Because India, largely a vegetarian country, people had always that taboo. And apart from that, it was also considered as a luxury brand. When I was a kid in school, I used to buy my favorite choco cream at 60 paisa. At that time, chai was costing 20 paisa. And today, chai and a stick, can't even stick, is costing 10 rupee. So over a period of time, we are able to make this product affordable, and more importantly, 100% pure vegetarian. And these are major reasons for our success. Well, in initial years, I know my uncle and father used to struggle to convince people to eat ice cream, and especially very traditional community like Jain community, Swaminarayan community. And in those days, when, like I correctly remember that Sri Pramukh Swami Maharaj from Swaminarayan Temple Babs, he insisted to visit our factory and see what kind of ingredients goes into our ice cream. And he visited. And the proof was there in the ice cream itself. Over a period of time, we always respected the culture and tradition of India. We have always remained a trendsetter, not the follower. When local brands selling ice cream, we became national. When local brands were selling tubs and bulk packs, we saw an opportunity that people would like to eat ice cream in cups, in cones and sticks. So we invested into that. And when multinational entered into ice cream and started focusing on international flavors, we go deep to our roots and introduce mithais into our ice creams. And that is doing wonder. And today, we are exporting also, and we are also the largest Indian ice cream exporter to US market. So, apart from ice cream, we are also in frozen food, ready-to-eat food, all types of Indian cuisine, pulp, and frozen sweet mithais, etc. Over a period of time, we have invented more than 250 flavors, and at any point of time, we ensure that 150 SKUs are there in our cold chain, whereas our competitors are able to give only 60 to 70 SKUs. We are exporting this product to more than 30 countries. This is possible because of our clear vision of being rooted to the Indian culture, a journey which we started 100 years ago is helping us to take ice cream from India to the world. And today, with this, I would like to end with my favorite Gujarati proverb, Nishan chuk maaf, pan nahi maaf nichan. It means, if you set up high targets and miss, that is forgivable. But if you set up a low target, not acceptable.
Very good. I mean, the fact that you're the biggest exporter of ice cream to the US and, the Vadilal brand through the whole century is, still remains regardless of all the MNC competition. We'll get into that a little bit more as to how that happened. So Ashutosh, you've built a fabulous brand in hospitality, which has a mix of Indian culture and global standards. So take us through what are the characteristics of the Ananta brand which you think differentiates.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashutosh Goyal and I am a third generation entrepreneur in a family business. Firstly, I feel extremely grateful to be here. I mean, when I got this opportunity to talk with such prominent legacy makers, I thought it's an amazing opportunity. Fun fact, I'm actually getting married in the next 5 days. So, so a lot of people are asking me that, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah, I'm asking you too. What the hell are you doing here?
But my mother and my fiance were pretty adamant. They said, forget the wedding. This is a great opportunity. So here I am. I represent a hospitality brand, Ananta. Ananta on its own means never ending. It means timeless. In Hindi, if I had to say, it means jiska koi ant na ho. So when my grandfather decided to build this brand back in 2008, in his mind, he had already pictured that he wants to create an everlasting legacy. Our focus has been on the 3 Ws, weddings, wellness, and wildlife. Weddings, because we all know that Indians spend a lot on weddings.
That's where you're going to be going, right, in the next few days? The wedding part of your Udaipur, is it?
Yes, that's right. It is anticipated that 6 lakh crore rupees will be spent on weddings this year. Our Udaipur property is actually spread across 90 acres, ideal for weddings. We have 264 rooms, 2 massive banquets, 2 pools, 16 different venues to choose from. When it comes to wildlife, I think people are getting more educated on the conservation of these beautiful animals. In fact, even the government is really supporting these initiatives. It was declared that they're getting 3 tiger reserves in Rajasthan itself. Wellness, we all know the importance of wellness in today's era, detoxifying your mind, your body, and your soul. Most of our properties are in very unique and unconventional locations. Our first property was built in Pushkar, which is a holy city, the only city with the Brahma temple in the world. When we were making this property, a lot of people criticized us that who makes a property in the middle of nowhere. Today, after Ananta, there are 48 resorts and hotels that have opened in that region, and Pushkar has become a global destination. Our second property was in Udaipur. Udaipur, of course, is the city of lakes, but we thought of going a little out of the box and made a property in the Aravalli ranges. Again, we were heavily criticized. In the city of lakes, why would you make something in the mountains? But I think Aravallis in Rajasthan are beautiful, pretty untouched. The longest mountain ranges in Rajasthan. So we decided to go a little out of the box, and today after us, I think there are 12 prominent brands that have opened around us. And now we have opened Ajabgarh, which is a new property. It's in the Sarska Alwar region, and there we are trying to actually bridge wellness with spirituality. I think 8 years ago, we also had the opportunity of selling our brand to a prominent international brand, and that would have actually helped us raise our revenues. But the vision to make a prominent Indian hospitality brand and to give our consumers the heritage and the culture that India has to offer has been our vision since day one, and it continues to be the vision.
Great. So let me just stay with you for a second. So you talked about innovation and the Indian. So how do you balance the innovation with the cultural heritage? That would be one. And relating to that is, the 12 other brands that came in the Aravalli ranges. Like if I went there, what would be the characteristic of the Ananta brand would it differentiate you, that should make you more timeless, since that's what Ananta stands for relative to the others?
I think the first thing is that we have to understand our heritage and then respect it. I'll answer this question by giving some examples of what we are doing. So in our Ajabgarh property, in that region 200 years ago, there were 500 temples, out of which 480 temples were destroyed during the Mughal Empire. 20 temples still stand tall in that region, out of which 1 temple happens to be in our land parcel. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to build a wellness center around that temple. So we're trying to bridge wellness with spirituality. Similarly, in Pushkar, Pushkar is known for its rose fields. That's where you get your gulkand from. We have curated experiential breakfasts in those fields. So guests can actually come there, pluck their roses, and we'll curate a breakfast out of it. In Udaipur, we are very close to nature, we love nature, so we actually did carbon printing of a lot of trees in that region. And the trees that were older than were more than 50 years old, we did not cut them. We shifted our architecture based on those trees. And my last example, actually, the state bird of Rajasthan is the great Indian bustard. So we are making a property in Jaisalmer, and along with the property, we are also making a breeding center because the bird is almost on the verge of extinction. There are only 150 birds there, and most of them are in Jaisalmer. So we are trying to conserve this beautiful bird, and I think that's how you like bridge innovation.
That's what
with
your
heritage.
stands for.
Right.
Maybe Devanshu, one of the things your brand has been, say, timeless for now over 130 years or 20 years. You've gone through multi-generation. But if you think about some of the consumer preferences now, focusing around health, sugar consumption, being health or wellness, one of the W's. How do you position an ice cream brand in that context?
Good question, in fact. In India, about 11% of the people are suffering from diabetes, and 60% they're from they are lactose intolerance. But in lactose intolerance problem, people in India, they don't realize, because from the childhood, they have been drinking milk. And almost in South India, the percentage almost as high as 75%, North and East about 55%. So we have come out with the no sugar product and lactose-free products. And we have, the growth rate is quite high. Of course, it's again a niche segment, because even after diabetes or lactose intolerance, people want to eat sugar. That's the unfortunate part, because that people don't realize the importance of no sugar and lactose-free. The issue, so we have plans to invest very heavy amount in these two segments.
And do you, when you position your brand, again, in terms of thinking about consumer preference and timelessness, are you going to position your brand a little differently as a result of that, or is it more just a niche extension of the brand?
Yeah, it is again a niche extension. So because what we do, our major brand is Vadilal, and under Vadilal, we create a sub-brands. We have created sub-brand strategies. That is, we have Bada Bite doing very well, Flingo, and Gourmet, Ice Troopers, even cake segments. So these different segments, we have created sub-brands. So for the health product, we have under the gourmet category, for the sugar-free and lactose intolerance, we are going to continue.
Great. Maybe Abhijit, for you, and all of you all can answer this. India, given the number of the different states, different language, different food preference, different cultures. I mean, India is is basically Europe in one country, if you will, right? As you go from one. Is your brand positioning different in different states? And maybe you all can answer that as well, because whether is it different, or how do you think about that in the national context?
No, so it's a good question. I think, it is quite different in different locations, right? So tastes and preferences change. In the north and the west, for example, they prefer pastel colors, lighter colors, typically for interiors and exteriors. If you go down south or to the east, they want brighter colors, darker colors, and they don't want these lighter colors at all. Similarly, there are a lot of other changes, the dress habits, everything else. So in the storytelling, you have to change that complete dynamics. So the essence of the brand remains the same. For example, if it is easy, clean, and if we have this washability on the wall which is being depicted, that remains right through consistent across the country. But the situation changes as per the requirement. So in Kerala, it will be differently shown. In Tamil Nadu, it will be a different thing which will be shown. The house will look different. The interiors will look different. The dress sense will look different. Otherwise, they can't correlate with it properly. If you dub it and you run one ad and you dub it in different languages, it doesn't work. Especially in South, in Kerala, we have seen or in Tamil Nadu, it becomes a big obstacle. In fact, it's a funny example in Kerala, for example, we used to run ads which used to dub, right? And it used to be one southern ad, which
So like a national ad,
like
which
a
you just
national
change the
ad in which we will, just put it in Malayali language, and but it never worked. So the local guys used to keep, saying that, what sort of, is not having the connect with our consumers. Why don't you do something here in Kerala itself, Kerala-centric ad? And they said, song is a necessity in every ad. We said, what bullshit, we have never heard of this type of a logic that, song has to be put in. So one fine day I said, okay, I'll watch all the ads of Kerala. The full day I spent, watching beautiful ads of all that brands which have been very successfully run in Kerala. And true to what they were saying, every one of them had a song in it, So we decided that, what the consumers want, let us give it to them. So we put a song in it. And lo and behold, that brand just, morphed into a very successful one in that state. So you need to understand, the dynamics and the culture of different areas, different locations, and devise the storytelling accordingly. I think the essence of the brand remains the same, but the storytelling changes from location to location.
Do you have different ice cream preference, like from an ice cream preferences in different parts of the country?
Similarly, I would say that India is like many country in one country. It's multilingual, multicultural, multi-religions. And accordingly, the taste preference, flavor preference changes. So in South, it's a coconut ice cream. In West, it's mango and strawberry. And North, it is lychee. In East, it is Nolan Good means ice cream made out of jaggery. So these are the different. So we manage SKUs looking at the consumer preference in each region, and we invent flavors accordingly.
Yeah, but do you position the brand differently, or is the brand pretty much
Yeah, it's the same. Vadilal, because mother brand is Vadilal.
Exactly.
That has to. So any ice cream, the most important part, the mother brand has to be stronger than any sub brand, and we our main we are always focusing on mother brand, and then sub brand.
Yeah. So Ashutosh, yours probably is a slightly different situation where it's not state to state, but how do you, we talked about in the previous session about building an Indian fashion brand for global markets and all that. So how are you thinking about building an Indian brand for global travelers, tourists to come and spend time? And how are you thinking about expanding that to make it Ananta like a global brand with Indian roots?
I think first we need to understand that the luxury hospitality segment is really evolving. First, in the mid 90s and the late 90s, when brands like Taj and Oberoi were making a prominence, that time they were importing a lot of products like big TVs, fluffy mattresses, fancy bathroom fittings, and these products were not there in your households. So for the consumer, that was luxury. Today, the concept of luxury has evolved. I think it's more private. It's more being connected to your environment, to your nature. So I think what we are focusing on is giving that experience to our guests. I think also we are curating experiences within and outside the property that actually gives them a flavor of where they're staying.
Okay, and in terms of, as you think about, the international positioning of Ananta as a brand, how is that different, or is?
I mean, we are honestly catering to the domestic crowd, giving them an international experience. And I personally feel that in India itself, that there are still so many unexplored locations and so many opportunities that we don't really need to go global. And I would urge international audiences to look at India. In fact, in the recent financial budget was mentioned that the government is also looking to redevelop 20 of the locations and bring in hotels there. So I feel the potential is massive. Also, the religious and spiritual tourism is really taking shape. We can see what's happening at the Mahakumbh. So the potential in our country itself is massive.
We may, after one or two more questions here, take some questions from the audience. So if you have a question, just be ready with that. So in terms of, in terms of thinking about the brand experience, whether it be in the last 15 years or the last 30, 40 years that you all have been in the business, what have been your major learning experience that you could share with the audience before we open it up for questions? Maybe you can start, Abhijit.
Yeah, so I think, we need to adapt to the changing circumstances. So just to give an example, earlier days when the painting was done, people will take a sandpaper, they will scrape the wall, a lot of dust will fly around, and it will take a long time for the process to be over. So people who stay in flats used to feel exasperated with this process of painting. So we created one, we had a device which is like a automatic sander, which does the sanding, also vacuum sucks the dust. And you can do, therefore, the job much faster, much cleaner, and much better. So we trained about 25,000 painters in this process. We opened up 23 training centers across the country. The purpose was that, a lot of migrants, who move on to the cities today, they don't have the luxury of having a feel of which are the painters to go to or which dealers to go to. So we provide this service directly to their residences. So in fact, using technology, so you can just fill in the form, you will get in a WhatsApp QR code of the painter. The painter's entire details will be there, how many jobs he has done in the past few months, what is the average customer satisfaction reading of that, what is the type of training that he has received from Berger Paints, and what is he expert on in terms of various types of uses, whether he knows designer finishes on the wall or wood coatings on the wall. So those are all given. And he goes to the customer and he discusses with the customer. There is a My Color app which is AI based, which allows the color to be chosen. So based on the discussion between these two gentlemen, then they decide to buy whatever paint that they decide, and the colors are chosen, and it goes, the order flows into the dealer supplies, and we in turn bill to the dealer. So the whole process has been completely digitized. This is keeping in mind as you said, the digitization is becoming a norm, right? So you need to evolve with the times, and that is what keeps us alive and keeps us thriving.
So it's all about innovation. By the way, if you all have questions, there are 2 mics here. So if you want to ask a question, just come down on the mic, because we will start questions soon, if you have any. Maybe you want to go to?
I think the biggest learning that I have seen over the years in terms of hospitality is that there's a difference between service and hospitality. Service is basically how you make your consumers, the things that you do for your consumers, and hospitality is actually how you make them feel. So today, I think everyone really wants that personalization. So for example, the Indian Namaskar is a very powerful tool to make people feel welcome, to make them feel at home. So in our properties, if like 20 of our team members just say Namaskar to our guests, I think the day is made. So it's all about how are you being personalized and how are you actually making your audience feel.
Was there something that you all were doing, say, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, which was like, oh my God, this is maybe not good for the brand, and we're going to course correct? Was there anything that you all had to do? Any example like that?
I think what we were doing is we were focusing more on what is trending around us rather than what is actually what our consumers want. So I think now the tables have turned and we are focusing more on the needs and demands of our consumers.
Maybe for you?
Well, the biggest learning experience, I was just, in the beginning, I was just talking to Professor Gandhi that in last 35 years of career, the experience which I had during COVID period, that was amazing. Like a lot of ups and downs. Like COVID stuck in the month of March 20. We were equipped with the stock because 60% of our sales is in 3 summer months. And next year also it stuck again in the month of April, and almost 3-4 months people were, our sales went down by 30%. It was 30% sales suddenly, and even we were borrowing capital to pay the salaries. It was tough time, and Even, of course, we did not retrenched anyone. But the best part that during that COVID period, we completely digitized. We scrutinized the expenses, everything we did. We did a lot of exercise because there was free time available, and video calling, and a lot of capacity. So, and it completely turned around. Third year, we grew 100%. So, and fourth year, it was just in the next 2 years, we recovered, and it helped to improve bottom line and top line. So
again,
this was the biggest experience.
So it gets back to the innovation and the digitization.
Complete digitization.
Okay, so maybe we take a few questions. We have about 10 minutes more, but please keep your questions to 30 seconds. If it's going to go longer than that, I'll cut. Go ahead, please, when you start there.
Thanks for a great talk, guys. So I wanted to ask you about how the Indian consumer is evolving. We've seen that in the past, companies in India get successful if they sell to India, very price-sensitive consumers. But in the last half a decade, we've seen India move towards more luxury items, prefer a luxurious lifestyle. Where do you think the opportunity still is? Do we try to sell to the masses still, or is there more opportunity moving towards the high-end segment of the Indian consumer?
Yeah, I think, it's there in both, so there is a opportunity which exists, as you rightly say, it is value conscious, in terms of, it's more demanding, someone in the first panel was mentioning that, Indian consumers are very, very demanding. It is true that way. Even in the premium segment, they demand a lot of features, a lot of benefits, and they are willing to pay for it, but they want that. It's a misconception that, it's only value for money which exists. There is a significant amount of, population, especially at least in the paint category, it's not really luxury. They are willing to spend on the premium and the luxury category, which we call as premium and luxury. In fact, even in the upcountry areas, the rural areas or mid-tier, tier 2, tier 3 towns, we see more consumption of luxury paint than sometimes even in the tier 1 towns. So there are regions in this, so it's not uniform, So there are certain regions which are much more well-off. They are more like, slightly evolved in terms of the economy. There are regions where, they are not so well-off, so they go for the mass products. So depending on which region and which tier you are in and which city you are in, it changes. So there is no one fixed rule, both mass and premium sells.
Fair, thank you.
So you have the other extreme, which is you're only focused on luxury.
Yeah, I think the younger generation is strongly for luxury. They want to spend more. And even like, for that matter, in India, like you must have seen the budgets, there have been like tax cuts, and people, the consumers will be able to save up on more money. So I'm sure that they will be wanting to spend more. But when it comes to the older generation, I think the ideology of saving is still there in their heads. My grandfather has been wearing the same shoe for the past 20 years. I've been telling him to change his shoe, but he just doesn't want to do it because the mentality is the same.
All right. For you, ma'am, yeah.
Namaskar. Thank you for an inspiring discussion. My name is Kanisha Arora. I'm the representative on the United Nations High-Level Committee for SDGs, and I work alongside the UN Secretary General focused on accelerating sustainable development. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how you integrate social responsibility into your brand identity.
Who would like to take that? Incorporating sustainability and social responsibility into your brand.
I can answer. Sustainability I can answer very well. So because, see, in ice cream, it's again, we have to maintain ice cream in the plant, in the cold chain distribution, cold rooms, super stockist, CFS. So it is completely powered, like a lot of electricity is required. So today our plants are running on renewable energy. We have already taken steps with our sales channels, like carry forward agents, super stockists, distributors, to convert them into to use renewable energy. We have converted, I think, 3 to 4% of the cold rooms and in these sales channels, and we have plans in next 5 to 6 years to reach to 60%.
So I think you'll find a lot of Indian businesses, which I'm sure there as well, where the actual focus on, while the demand for power is going up, so you still have thermal-based power, but a big focus on moving towards renewables. And also perhaps on labor practices and things like that. Is there any comments on that? Yeah.
So lots of it, actually ESG score is very important and crucial. In fact, Government of India has now mandated that the top 150 companies have to come out with a separate ESG module, which they have to submit to the SEBI. So as per rules, you have to do a lot of things, but otherwise also voluntarily a lot of these companies do. So for example, we use a lot of solar power, which is, there for environmental purpose. We use biobriquettes, for generating fuel, instead of using diesel, etc. There are, we give training, as I said, 23 training centers are there, and also mobile vans in which we train painters and contractors for improving their livelihood. Many of them have become good quality contractors. They've gone abroad, sometimes to Middle East, to do their profession and carry on with the good work that they have learned. So that's giving livelihood to a lot of people. On the social side, this is a huge training program which we run. And governance, of course, is paramount. We are a listed company, but otherwise we take governance extremely seriously, I think. So therefore, ESG scores, we monitor very seriously. We are listed in the Dow Jones Index as well, and we are looking at it. So therefore, it is a very important part of our structure.
Yeah. Okay. Ma'am, there. Yeah.
All right. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool. First of all, I'd like to say that this has been incredibly educational. There were a couple of key takeaways that I had, and I have one question for you, panel, on what advice you have for younger brands based on some of the takeaways that I had. I really appreciated that focus on the customer journey and really adapting with the changing markets, whether it's customization, adopting AI, or just bringing.
By the way, I'm supposed to be doing the takeaways. So what
yeah,
is the customer? What is
yeah.
the customer journey, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
customer journey. So what is something that you have learned from maybe the younger brand or in the recent, the younger generation's customer journey, and what advice would you have for a younger brand
Yeah.
that's trying to build into this?
So we have a lot of people interested in startups. They're building brands. What advice would you have for a younger brand going forward? Maybe you want to start? Yeah.
I think the most important thing that I have seen, we have legacy makers here, is that they had the patience for over 100 years. So I think that is something that we need to make sure that, a lot of the young entrepreneurs who are planning to start their brands, they are looking for quick success, which doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens if you're lucky, but it takes a lot of time and effort to build a brand. So you need to have that patience.
Yeah. Maybe one comment or thoughts on that?
Well, for a younger brand, if you go to a traditional channel of retailer, distributors, or modern trade, etc., it is going to be very difficult. But fortunately, e-com and quick-com, all the new brands, young brands, they are coming out with niche products, for the niche markets. And e-com and quick-com is helping them very well to go directly to a consumer, bypassing this tougher traditional channels.
Distribution channels, yeah. So I think that, yeah, maybe one last question. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. So if you can make a quick question from that side.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a little bit of context. Thank you for your time here first. My name's Krish, and I'm building a startup that is called Roam. It's a marketplace for international student services. So we simplify the move to the US and help them save tens of thousands of dollars along the way. Now, our biggest market is India as well. And as you know better than anyone, the Indian consumer is extremely demanding. So how do you instill a culture of perpetual iteration and improvement amongst your team as you scale? Because you all have all built monumental businesses. And if there's one takeaway I've had from all the speakers here, it's they love their customer and they make their entire organization feel the same. So how do you go about doing that?
It's called customer delight. How do you make a customer delighted?
I think the most important thing is to have a strong organizational culture. One thing that I've learned over the past few years is that culture cannot be taught, it has to be caught. So that is something that I think, I have been seeing with my organization, that if you're consistent with your culture, eventually your team members are able to project it well.
I think you need to be empathetic towards your employees. That's the biggest point. The team has to be created and they must be with you, right? So you have to take care of them. So someone was mentioning about COVID and in the COVID times, and we had a similar situation there, in COVID. Suddenly it came, and paint, of course, is a non-essential item, so everything came to a standstill. And the decision was whether we should, stop salaries or, do some retrenchment, etc. The first call which we took was, not a single person will be retrenched. Second is that, all offers which we had made to management trainees and sales officer trainees, we will honor them, right? And we will carry on with the business that we are doing. At that point of time, we saw that, in the upcountry areas, a lot of business was still going on. In the cities, there were problems, but in the upcountry, there was no issue. So we put all of our employees into the upcountry areas, and even in the COVID year, we grew. But the big learning lesson from this is the employees then, gave back to the company much more than what they would have otherwise given, right? So you need to empathize with them. You need to be sympathetic, and it's not like, you have an incentive and you have to deliver, and, you have to train them and you have to be empathetic, and, you have to buy their heart rather than just, being a transactional. So the emotional part of it is very important. If you do that well, I think sustainability becomes easier.
Thank you.
Sorry, okay, so thank you. I know there's another bunch of questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. So, as a lot of all our panelists have said, and we started off that essentially, the importance of brand is not just about product. It's not just about strong marketing. It's about creating an emotional connection. It's about innovating. It's like the previous question. You summarized it very well, so thank you. It's about really kind of making sure that you continue to adopt and adjust your brand based on consumer preference and time. The other key issue is digitization, as to how digitization is going to change the way you position your brand. And the third piece would be, in the younger generation, in terms of whether it be your startups or whether it be you as a consumer, what are the demands that you have of some of the larger timeless brands that we have? Clearly, you all have all been extremely successful in building those brands. We're really extremely grateful, on the part of HBS and Harvard University that you've taken the time to be here. While I'm very grateful for both of you to hear, for you especially, since you got to go back and get married. And I must say you have a very supportive wife-to-be and in-laws and parents that they shipped you off to Boston 3 days before your marriage. But please join me in thanking all our panelists. It's been a very interesting discussion. And so, Vedant.
Thank you all for being a part of what has been a remarkable discussion on the evolution of Indian brands. To Mr. Roy, Mr. Gandhi, and Mr. Goyal, your insights on turning a local heritage into global advantage while staying relevant across India's diverse landscape has been truly eye-opening. You've shown us how timeless brands are built by respecting tradition while fearlessly innovating. Professor Gandhi, thank you for drawing out these powerful perspectives. Our next session begins in 10 minutes in Klarman Hall. Thank you all. मेरा ले सकता है